director of several health clinics. He's gone to school for many years, starting at Northland College. Had the honor many years ago. May Wajah, say that. That means a long time ago, giving him his Anishinaabe name. And at his naming ceremony, which was held up in Red Cliff, the name he was given was Guy Oshk. Can you say that? And that means a seagull. And I said, you come from Gitchigumi, the big water, also known as Lake Superior, and hopefully someday you'll come back to where the seagulls live. And so Seagull has come back to his home in Red Cliff. He has a doctorate of philosophy degree. He's gone on and on to school. I'm honored and privileged to welcome him in a good way today. By your applause, please welcome Guy Osh.
Bonjour, Anin, and the way I'm gonna do. Nin the way to maga kana we at the Biaja Yegoma. Nimigucha Windam, Gakana the Biaja Yegoma. Nin the Jenakaz, and the Shanabe Gayash, Seagull. Nin the Jenakaz, Chamokamanamoan, or Jaganashamoan, Jim Pete, in Dunjaba Wikwayan, or Misquabakan, in Dunjaba Magazine Dodem. John mentioned about Red Cliff being called Misquabacan, and that's one name that we go by. But elders way back told me that it used to be known as Wikwayan, which means there is a bay. And if you've ever been up to Red Cliff, we have the campground and then the marina. And right there is called Buffalo Bay, and that's what they used to refer to Red Cliff as, there is a bay. And so it is a real honor and privilege to be here. I want to acknowledge the elders that are here, as well as the very, very young people. My daughter-in-law, Heather, is here. My granddaughter, Kiara, is here. I noticed on the little announcement for the GONA training that there is a picture on there in my granddaughter, Shayna Peterson. So, going from Red Cliff, even though they live down here, Shayna's enrolled in Red Cliff, we're all together, we're all related, we're all somehow connected. And it's a connection that we have that goes back probably to the beginning of time. And one of the things in a few seconds here that we'll talk about is this thing that's going on these next 4 days called GONA, Gathering of Native Americans. And it's a real effort to try to utilize some resources to handle and deal with drug abuse, alcoholism, domestic violence, all kinds of negative things that we deal with in our communities. And this GONA is one way of trying to come up with some ways to handle that in a little different way. One of those ways is to handle that based on our traditions that we have learned. So we're going to be doing that in a few minutes. But what I'd like to do, because John mentioned about all this experience I have, one of the things that I do is I do a lot of training, and so sometimes I'll travel nationwide. I've been up to Anchorage, Alaska a few times. I've been to Bethel, Alaska, which nobody would ever want to go to, but anyway, I was there. I even had the opportunity, and this is again a real honor, I got a chance to go to Honolulu, Hawaii to help with the conference on Native leadership. And I didn't care what I was going to do, I was going to go. And I said, yes, I can do it, I can do it. But, as your path comes about, there's going to be opportunities sometimes that are just too good to pass up. And so hopefully you'll get a chance to do that. But what I want to ask you to do, if you'll all come out here, we're going to do a little warm-up exercise. Now, 1, 2, 3, you turn around with some kind of symbol. If you match, stay up. If you don't, sit down. Okay? Rabbit, bear, wizard. Basic needs in the sweat. Turn around. Okay, so do that. We're going to start laying some lifetime foundations for you. Now, I stand here, and right now I'm okay. I'm kind of comfortable, but I am what you call an introvert, which means I would rather sit back there in the tree and not say nothing, but I've had to push and force myself to be comfortable talking in front of people. I could very easily be here like shaking and sweating and stuff like that, but because I'm using craziness and foolish humor, that helps me get through that. I have right now just a little bit over 18 and a half years of sobriety.
Hey!
And there's days that it's like no problem at all. There's days that it would be very easy for me to just go to the bar and get an Alabama Slammer and drink that. There's days that I really would like to do that. But what happened when I finally got the courage to start that, it really also helped me connect with my Anishinaabe or my spirituality that I so much needed. I remember meeting John probably in 1972 when he was at St. Scholastica, and they would come to the reservations and they would have courses that they would offer. And then they would have little sessions. We would, as it takes me back to the creator and the ancestors and elders that have been there. And so it was a real important process for me to ask and want to get that Indian name, because in following the native traditions, that's what I thought was important. That's what I felt would help me along with that. It has taken me, let's see, 1978, that was 33 years now. It still is taking me 33 plus years to understand what that name means, because it means a lot of different things. As I've watched seagulls in their natural interaction, that how they have their whole family systems themselves. One time I was in Superior driving on the Highway 2 there, and I hit the seagull that ended up right in the middle of the 4-lane. And I didn't know what to do, so I pulled over, and I had a blanket, and I took it, and I wrapped around that seagull, and I put it over where there was like a huge gathering. And I just kind of watched it because I wasn't sure what I should do from there. Within minutes, there was all these seagulls that had come around there and surrounded it. And it's like how they were taking care of that relative of theirs. And so one part of what I've learned in having this name of seagull is that it means a lot of different things. And sometimes people will tease me because they'll say, oh, seagull, you take your stuff out of the dump. You get your food out of the dump. Well, yeah, I do. Who doesn't? You know? Well, sometimes people will say, oh, I was walking and then this seagull crapped on me. Hey, that's what seagulls do. Don't we all crap at some point? Don't we all go to the bathroom? Again, it's a natural part of who we are. And so this thing about belonging and identity, there's a lot of different aspects of it. I don't even know how to say how honored I am to be here, because my path has been a constant learning and learning and learning. And as far as the Ojibwe culture and language and traditions, I know like just a speck. I know there's other people that know more things, and I know that there's other people from LCO that are just very, very good resources to talk about culture and Ojibwe traditions. And so I'm really honored to be here, and part of being able to come here is just share some of those things that I've learned also over the years, not only from elders in Redcliffe, but elders from LCO, from Mille Lacs, from Lac Courte, because when you interact, you start learning different things from different people, and that maybe there's some of those things that you will start inheriting to just live on your own. A very, very good friend of mine, I can't think of the last name, Betty, that was with Benjamin. She was a Betty LaCapa. What was her other name? Betty Benjamin from LCO, that was a traditional dancer, and again, learning from them in the powwow circuit. And one time they stayed with me up in Redcliffe, and I cooked them breakfast, and they went out and they got strawberries, because around Bayfield they have the fruit gatherers around there. And it was just so nice to be able to have that connection and what I was able to learn from them in that traditional way. And again, so these things that I share with you today, I hope that they grew you. And as far as I know, the Anishinaabe word for clan is Dodin. Now, you might see this spelled different ways. That's okay. Remember the way you say it, as I understand, is Dodin. And what this picture represents, and the reason that I think it's so important, is that it connects us back to the journey that one of our chiefs, Chief Buffalo, made probably back in 1852 that led up to signing of the treaty on Madeline Island, September 30th of 1854. And Chief Buffalo was probably 92, 93 years old when, as the chief, and he was seeing what was going on with the Anishinaabe people, not only Madeline Island, but the little village of Redcliffe, which wasn't called that then, the little village of Bad River, the little village over in Flambeau and Lac Courte Orielles, and he could see all these things that were going on and how the government, again at that time, wanted to remove us from our traditional homeland here over into Minnesota. There was efforts that were going on. So at the age of 92 or so, he gathered people that would travel with him, and they left in a birch bark canoe from Madeline Island. I believe it was, because we just kind of recognized it, I think it was May 5th of 1852, something like that. Please kind of check that if you're interested in that, what the exact date was. But what they did was, they traveled on that canoe and they went up the St. Lawrence Seaway, and they had all kinds of things that they had to be concerned about. The weather, they didn't have any money. They had to make their living and their food off the land. They ran into people that when they found out what their journey was to see the President of the United States at that time, they would help them by giving them a little bit food. When they got to Washington, D.C., I understand, they had no appointment with the President, but there was people that kind of heard what this cause was, and they were able to get the President to meet with Chief Buffalo and his delegation. And so when you look at this picture, it's a drawing that was done by an individual in the 1850s that represented the people that traveled to Washington, D.C. at that time, that again, the results of that ended up in us being protected, being recognized. We have our treaty rights, we have the reservations that we have in this day and age, and you'll see that number one is Oshka Bewis, and he was identified as that chief and leader of the delegation representing the crane totem. Another word for Dodane is totem. Wamatigos, head, he of the wooden vessel, a warrior of the Martin totem. Another one was Ogima Gijik, chief's guide of the Martin totem. Musco Odance of the Martin totem. You see Omashkose of the bear totem. Penesi or Benesi, which is sort of our word for bird, little bird. He was of the fish clan. And now G1 of the catfish clan or totem. And so again, as you look at this and look at how we tie back to things that helps us get into this thing about belonging, that clan system and representatives of the clan system and what they did for us to protect the future generations, the people that are living in this day and age, you know, was a sight, a vision of that great Chief Buffalo and all the people that were in existence at that time and how important that was. And so, again, as you begin, and some of you I know, my grandkids, you know, they don't want to sit here like this for this long, so please just try to be a little bit patient and just try to listen. Maybe it'll come clear 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 25 years from now. That's okay.